22. But first, we're going to give a chance for people to arrive. How y'all doing tonight? I know we just saw each other a couple hours ago, but yes, we are ready, and we are back. We're going to finish 21, and then we're going to probably go on to 22. So we're going to read quite a bit tonight. I am Lady Rain, as you all well know, and we are in Bag of Bones. We are in the middle of chapter 21, so we're going to finish that up, probably go into 22. So, where we left off, "No time, lady, no time," Devore shouted. "He's a goddamn punk thief. That ain't his young'un he's got. Stop him." But no one did, and I rushed into the darkness of the ghost house with Kai in my arms. Beyond the entry was a passage so narrow I had to turn sideways to get down it. Phosphorescent eyes glared at us in the gloom. Up ahead was a growing wood rumble, a loud noise with a clanking chain beneath it. Behind us came the clumsy thunder of caulked equipped loggers' boots, rushing up the stairs outside. The ginger-haired carney was hollering at them now. She was telling them that if they broke anything inside, they'd have to give up the goods. "You mind me, you damned rubes," she shouted. "That place is for kids. Not in..." Huh? I'm gonna kill the dogs. What'd they do? Did they lick it?
No. Your coffee that's on the table? You have on my Nintendo.
They didn't break it, did they?
Thankfully not.
Okay. Not the likes of you. The rumble was directly ahead of us.
It smells like coffee, probably.
Sorry. Something was turning. At first, I couldn't make out what it was. "Put me down, Mike," Kyra sounded excited. "I want to go through by myself." I set her on her feet and then looked nervously back over my shoulder. The bright light at the entryway was blocked out as they tried to cram in. "You asses," Devore yelled. "Not all at the same time." "Sweet weeping Jesus." There was a smack and someone cried out. I faced front just in time to see Kyra dart through the rolling barrel, holding her hands out for balance. Incredibly, she was laughing. I followed, got halfway across, then went down with a thump. "Oops!" Kyra called from the far side, then giggled as I tried to get up, fell again, and then tumbled all the way over. The bandana fell out of my bib pocket. A bag of Whorehound candy dropped from another pocket. I tried to look back to see if they had got themselves sorted out and were coming. When I did, the barrel hurled me through another inadvertent somersault. Now I knew how close felt in a dryer. I crawled to the end of the barrel, got up, took Kai's hand, and let her lead us deeper into the ghost house. We got perhaps 10 paces before white bloomed toward her like a lily, and she screamed. Some animal, something that sounded like a huge cat, hissed heavily. Adrenaline dumped into my bloodstream, and I was about to jerk her backward into my arms again when the hiss came once more. I got hot air on my ankles, and Kyra's dress made the bell shape around her legs again. This time she laughed instead of screaming. "Go, Kai," I whispered. "Fast!" We went on, leaving the steam vent behind. There was a mirrored corridor where we were reflected first as squat dwarves and then as scrawny ectomorphs with long white vampire features. I had to urge Kyra on again. She wanted to make faces at herself. Behind us, I heard cursing lumberjacks trying to negotiate the barrel. I could hear Devore cursing too, but he no longer seemed to. So eminent. There was a sliding pole that landed us on a big canvas pillow. This made a loud farting sound when we hit it, and Kai laughed until fresh tears spilled down her cheeks, rolling around and kicking her feet in glee. I got my hands under her arms and yanked her up. Don't taggle your own quartermac, she said, then laughed again. Her fear seemed to have entirely departed. We went down another narrow corridor. My hair has got to be itching. Another narrow corridor. It smelled of a fragrant pine from which it had been constructed. Behind one of the walls, two ghosts were clanking chains as mechanically as men working on a shoe factory assembly line, talking about where they were going to take their girls tonight and who was going to bring some red-eye engine, whatever that was. I could no longer hear anyone behind us. Kai led the way confidently, one of her little hands holding one of my big ones, pulling me along. When we came to the door painted with glowing flames and marked "This way to Hades," she pulled us through with no hesitation at all. Here, red isinglass topped the passage with a tinted skylight imparting a rosy glow I thought far too pleasant for Hades. We went on for what felt like a very long time, and I realized I could no longer hear the calliope? It's got to be the guys. The hearty bong of the test your strength bell, or Sarah and the Red Tops. Nor was that exactly surprising. We must have walked a quarter of a mile. How could any county fair ghost house be so big? We came to 3 doors then, one on the left, one on the right, and one set into the end of the corridor. On one, a little red tricycle was painted. On the door facing it was my green IBM typewriter. The picture on the door at the end looked older somehow, faded and dowdy. It showed a child's sled. That's Scooter Larrabee's, I thought. That's the one Divorce stole. A rash of gooseflesh broke out on my arms and back. Well, Kyra said brightly, here are our toys. She lifted Strickland, presumably so he could see the red trike. Yeah, I said, I guess so. Thank you for taking me away, she said. Those were scary men, but the spooky house was fun. Nighty-night. Strickland says nighty-night, too. It still came out sounding exotic, too, like the Vietnamese word for sublime happiness. Before I could say another word, she had pushed open the door with the red trike on it and stepped through. It snapped shut behind her, and as it did, I saw the ribbon from her hat. It was hanging out of the bib pocket of the overalls I was wearing. I looked at it a moment, then tried the knob of the door she had just gone through. It wouldn't turn. And when I slapped my head against the wood, it was like slapping some hard and fabulously dense metal. I stepped back, then cocked my head in the direction from which we'd come. There was nothing, total silence. This is the in-between time, I thought, when people talk about slipping through the cracks. This is what they really mean. This is the place where they really go. You better get going yourself, Joe told me. If you don't want to find yourself trapped here, maybe forever, you better get going yourself. I turned the knob of the door with the typewriter printed on it. It turned easily. Behind it was another narrow corridor, more wooden walls, and a sweet smell of pine. I didn't want to go in there. Something about it made me think of a long coffin, but there was nothing else to do, nowhere else to go. I went, and the door slammed shut behind me. Christ, I thought. I'm in the dark, in a closet, closed-in place. It's time for one of Michael Noonan's world-famous panic attacks. But no bands clamped themselves over my chest, and although my heart rate was high and my muscles were still jacked on adrenaline, I was under control. Also, I realized it wasn't exactly dark. I could only see a little, but enough to make out the walls and the plank floor. I wrapped the dark blue ribbon of Kai's hat around my wrist, tucked one end underneath so it wouldn't come loose. Then I began to move forward. I went on for a long time, the corridor turning this way and that, seemingly at random. I felt like a microbe slipping through an intestine. At last I came to a pair of wooden arched doors. I stood before them, wondering what was the correct choice, and realized I could hear Bunter's bell faintly through the one on my left. I went that way, and as I walked, the bell grew steadily louder. At some point, the sound of the bell was joined by the mutter of thunder. The autumn cool had left the air, and it was hot again, stifling. I looked down and saw that the bibbles and clodhopper shoes were gone. I was wearing thermal underwear and itchy socks. Twice more I came to choices, and each time I picked the opening through which I could hear Bunter's bell. And as I stood before the second pair of doorways, I heard a voice somewhere in the dark say, quite clearly, no, the president's wife wasn't hit. That's his blood on her stockings. I walked on, then stopped when I realized my feet and ankles no longer itched, that my thighs no longer sweating into the long johns. I was wearing jockey shorts I usually slept in. I looked up and saw it was my own living room, threading my way carefully through the furniture, as you do in the dark, trying like hell not to stub your stupid toe. I could see a little better. Faintly milky light was coming in through the windows. I reached the counter, which separates the living room from the kitchen, and looked over at the wacky cat clock. It was 5:05. I went to the sink and turned on the water. When I reached for a glass, I saw I was still wearing the ribbon from Kai's straw hat on my wrist. I unwound it and put it on the counter between the coffee maker and the kitchen TV. Then I drew myself some cold water, drank it down, and made my way cautiously along the north wing corridor by the pallid yellow glow of the bathroom nightlight. I peed, urinated, I could hear Kai saying, then went into the bedroom. The sheets were rumpled, but the bed didn't have the organic look of the morning after my dream of Sarah, Maddie, and Joe. Why would it? I'd gotten out of it and had myself a little sleepwalk, an extraordinarily vivid dream of the Freiburg Fair. Except that was bullshit, and not just because I had the blue silk ribbon from Kai's hat. None of it had the quality of dreams of waking, where what seemed plausible becomes immediately ridiculous, and all the colors, both those bright and those ominous, fade at once. I raised my hands to my face, cupped them over my nose, and breathed deeply. Time. When I looked, I even saw a little smear of sap on my pinky finger. I sat on the bed, thought about dictating what I'd just experienced into the memo scriber, then flopped back on the pillows instead. I was too tired. Thunder rumbled. I closed my eyes, began to drift away, and then a scream rippled through the house. It was as sharp as the neck of a broken bottle. I sat up with the yell clutching at my chest. It was Jo. I had never heard her scream like that in our life together, but I knew who it was just the same. Stop hurting her, I shouted into the darkness. Whoever you are, stop hurting her. She screamed again, as if something like a knife, clamp, or hot poker took a malicious delight in disobeying me. It seemed to come from a distance this time, and her third scream, while just as agonized as the first two, was further away still. They were diminishing as the little boy's sobbing had diminished. A fourth scream floated out of the dark, Then Sara was silent. Breathless, the house breathed around me, alive in the heat, aware in the faint sound of dawn thunder. Well, I guess I could have read it under 30 minutes. It's okay, we're going to keep reading. I was finally able to get into the zone, but couldn't do anything once I got there. I kept a steno pad handy for notes, characters lists, page references, date chronologies, and I doodled in there a little bit, but the sheet of paper in the IBM remained blank. There was no thundering heartbeat, no throbbing eyes or difficulty breathing, no panic attack, in other words. But there was no story either. Andy Drake, John Shackelford, Ray Garrity, the beautiful Regina Whiting, they stood with their backs turned, refusing to speak or move. The manuscript was sitting in its accustomed place on the left side of the typewriter, the pages held down with a pretty chunk of quartz I'd found on the lane. But nothing was happening. Zilch. I recognized an irony here, perhaps even a moral. For years I had fled the problems of the real world, escaping into various Narnias of my imagination. Now the real world had filled up with bewildering thickets. There were things with teeth in some of them, and the wardrobe was locked against me. Kyra, I had printed, putting her name inside a scalloped shape that was supposed to be a cabbage rose. Below it I had drawn a piece of bread with a beret tipped rakishly on the top crust. Noonan's conception of French toast. The letters LB surrounded with curlicues. A shirt with a rudimentary duck on it. Beside this, I had printed quack, quack. Below quack, quack, I had written out to fly away, bon voyage. At another spot on the sheet, I had written Dean, Oster, and Devore. They were the ones who had seemed the most there, the most dangerous, because they had descendants. Because they had descendants? But surely all 7 of those Jacks mustn't they? In those days, most families were whoppers. And where had I been? I had asked, but Devore hadn't wanted to say. It didn't feel any more like a dream at 9:30 on a sullenly hot Sunday morning, which left exactly what? Visions? Time travel? And if there was a purpose to such travel, what was it? What was the message, and who was trying to send it? I remember clearly what I'd said just before passing from the dream in which I had sleepwalked out to Joe's studio and brought back my typewriter. I don't believe these lies, nor would I now. Until I could see at least some of the truth, it must be safer to believe nothing at all. It might be safer to believe nothing at all. At the top of the sheet upon which I was doodling in heavy stroked letters, I printed the word danger, then circled it. From the circle, I drew an arrow to Kyra's name. From her name, I drew an arrow to out to fly away, bon voyage, and added Maddie. Below the bread wearing the beret, I drew a little telephone. Above it, I put a cartoon balloon with ring in it. And as I finished this, the cordless phone rang. It was sitting on the deck rail. I circled Maddie and picked up the phone. Mike? She sounded excited, happy, relieved. Yeah, I said, how are you? Great, she said. I circled LB on the pad. Liddy Briggs called 10 minutes ago. I just got off the phone with her, Mike. She's giving me my job back. Isn't that wonderful? Sure. And wonderful how it would keep her in town. I crossed out to fly away, bon voyage, knowing that Maddie wouldn't go. Not now. And how could I ask her to? I thought again. If only I knew a little more. Mike, are you? It's very wonderful, I said. In my mind's eye, I could see her standing in the kitchen, drawing the kinked telephone cord around her fingers, her long, her legs long and coltish below her denim shorts. I could see the shirt she was wearing, a white tee with a yellow duck paddling across the front. I hope Lindy had the good grace to sound ashamed of herself. I circled the t-shirt I'd drawn. She did, and she was frank enough to kind of, well, disarm me. She said the Whitmore woman talked to her early last week. Was very frank and to the point, Lindy said. I was to be let go immediately, and if that happened, the money, computer equipment, and software Devore funneled into the library would keep coming. If it didn't, the flow of goods and money would stop immediately. She said she had to balance the good of the community against what she knew was wrong. She said it was one of the toughest decisions she had ever had to make. Uh-huh. On the pad, my hand moved of its own volition, like a planchette gliding over a Ouija board, printing the words, please, can't I, please. There's probably more truth in it, but Maddie, how much do you suppose Lindy makes? I don't know. I bet it's more than any 3 other small-town librarians in the state of Maine combined. In the background, I heard Kai. Can I talk, Maddie? Can I talk to Mike? Can I please? Please, can't I, please? Wow. In a minute, hun. Then to me, maybe. All I know is that I have my job back and I'm willing to let bygones be bygones. On the page, I drew a book. Then I drew a series of interlocked circles between it and the duck t-shirt. Kai wants to talk to you, Maddie said, laughing. She said the 2 of you went to the Freiburg Fair last night. Whoa, what do you mean? I had a date with a pretty girl and slept through it? Seems that way. Are you ready for her? Ready. Okay, here comes the chatterbox. There was a rustling as the phone changed hands. Then Kai was there. I tagged you at the fair, Mike. I tackled my own quartermack. Did you? I asked. That was quite a dream, wasn't it, Kai? There was a long silence at the other end. I could imagine Maddie wondering what had happened to her telephone chatterbox. At last, Kai said in a hesitated voice, You there too? Too. We saw the snake dance ladies, the pole with the bell on top. We went to the spooky house. You fell down in the barrel. It wasn't a dream, was it? I could have convinced her that it was, but all at once that seemed like a bad idea, one that was dangerous in its own way. I said, You had on a pretty hat and a pretty dress. Yeah! Kai sounded enormously relieved. And you had on... Kyra, stop. Listen to me. She stopped at once. It's better if you don't talk about that dream too much, I think. To your mom or to anyone except me. Except you? Yes. And the same with the refrigerator people, okay? Okay, Mike. There was a lady in Maddie's clothes. I know, I said. It was all right for her to talk. I was sure of that, but I asked anyway. Where's Maddie now? What? Oh, I thought you said something to me. Where's Maddie now? Watering the flowers. We got lots of flowers, 1 billion at least. I have to clean up the table. It's a chore. I don't mind, though. I like chores. We had French toast. We always do on Sundays. It's yummy, especially with strawberry syrup. I know, I said, drawing an arrow to a piece of bread wearing the beret. French toast is great, Kai. Did you tell your mom about the lady in her dress? No, I thought it might scare her. She dropped her voice. Here she comes. That's all right. But we've got a secret, right? Yes. Now, can I talk to Maddie again? Okay. Her voice moved off a little. Mommy, Mike wants to talk to you. Then she came back. Will you visit us today? We could go on another picnic. I can't today, Kai. I have to work. Maddie never works on Sundays. Well, when I'm writing a book, I work every day. I have to, or else I'll forget the story. Maybe we'll have a picnic on Tuesday, though. A barbecue picnic at your house. Is it long till Tuesday? Not too long. Day after tomorrow. Is it long to write a book? Medium long. I could hear Maddie telling Kai to give her the phone. I will, just one more second. Mike, I'm here, Kai. I love you. Aww. I was both touched and terrified. For a moment, I was sure my throat was going to lock up the way my chest used to when I tried to write. Then it cleared, and I said, love you too, Kai. Here's Maddie. Again, there was a rustly sound of the phone changing hands. Then Maddie said, did that refresh your recollection of your date with my daughter, sir? Well, I said, it certainly refreshed hers. There was a link between Maddie and me, but it didn't extend to this. I was sure of it. She was laughing. I loved the way she sounded this morning, and I didn't want to bring her down. But I didn't want her mistaking the white line in the middle of the road for the crosswalk either. Maddie, you still need to be careful, okay? Just because Liddy Briggs offered you your job back doesn't mean everyone in town is suddenly your friend. Oh, I understand that, she said. I thought again about asking if she'd consider taking Kai up to Derry for a while. They could live in my house, stay for the duration of the summer, if that was what it took for things to return to normal down here. Except she wouldn't do it. When it came to accepting my offer of high-priced New York legal talent, she'd had no choice. About this, she did, or thought she did, and how could I change her mind? I had no logic, no connected facts. All I had was a vague, dark shape, like something lying beneath 9 inches of snow-blind ice. I want you to be careful of two men in particular, I said. One is Bill Dean, the other's Karen Oster. He's the big dog who wears the neckerchief. That's Booberry. With the big dog who wears the neckerchief. That's Booberry. Kai called from the middle distance. Booberry licked my facey. Go out and play, hun, Maddie said. I'm clearing the table. You can finish later. Go on, outside now. There was a pause as she watched Kai go out the door, taking Strickland with her. Although the kid had left the trailer, Maddie still spoke in the lowered tone of someone who didn't want to be overheard. Are you trying to scare me? No, I said, drawing repeated circles around the word danger. But I want you to be careful. Bill and Kenny have been on divorce team, like Footman and Osgood. Don't ask me why I think that might be, because I have no satisfactory answer. It's only a feeling, but since I got back to the TR, my feelings are different. What do you mean? Are you wearing a t-shirt with a duck on it? How did you know that? Did Kai tell you? Did she take the little stuffed dog from the Happy Meal out with her just now? A long pause. At last, she said, my God, in a voice so low, I could hardly hear it. And then again, how? I don't know how. I don't know if you're still in a bad situation either, or why you might be, but I feel, oh, there goes my phone. But I feel that you both are. I could have said more, but I was afraid she'd think I'd gone entirely off the rails. He's dead, she burst out. That old man is dead. Why can't he leave us alone? Maybe he has. Maybe I'm wrong about all this. But there's no harm in being careful, is there? No, she said. Usually that's true. Usually? Why don't you come and see me, Mike? Maybe we could go to the fair together. Really? I'm in the middle of reading and somebody's got a call. That would be my husband. Yeah. Hello? Hello? Hi? Okay, I can do that. You're welcome. All right, love you. Bye. Okay, now that that's over. Why don't you come and see me, Mike? Maybe we could go to the fair together. Maybe this fall we will, all three of us. I'd like that. In the meantime, I'm thinking about the key. Thinking is half your problem, Mike, she said and laughed again. Ruefully, I thought, but I saw what she meant. What she didn't seem to understand was that feeling was the other half. It's the sling, and in the end, I think it rocks most of us to death. I worked for a while, then carried the IBM back into the house and left the manuscript on top. I was done with it, at least for the time being. No more looking for a way back through the wardrobe. No more Andy Drake and John Shackelfield until this was over. And as I dressed in long pants and a button-up shirt for the first time in what felt like weeks, it occurred to me that perhaps something, some force, had been trying to sedate me with the story I was telling. With the ability to work again, it made sense. Work had always been my drug of choice, even better than booze or the Mellaril I still kept in the bathroom medicine cabinet. Or maybe work was only the delivery system, the hypo with all the dreamy dreams inside it. Maybe the real drug was the zone, being in the zone, feeling it. You sometimes hear the baseball players say, I was in the zone, and I was really feeling it. I grabbed the keys to the Chevrolet off the counter and looked at the fridge as I did. The magnets were circled, one that was now instantly understandable, thanks to the extra magnet letters. Help her. I'm doing my best, I said, and went out. 3 miles north on Route 68. By then, you're on part of it, which used to be known as Castle Rock Road. There's a greenhouse with a shop in front of it. Slips and Greens, it's called. And Joe used to spend a fair amount of time there, buying gardening supplies or just noodling with the two women who ran the place. One of them was Helen Oster, Kenny's wife. Really? I pulled in there at around 10 o'clock on Sunday morning. It was open, of course. During tourist season, almost every Maine shopkeeper turns heathen and parked next to the Beamer with New York plates. I paused long enough to hear the weather forecast on the radio, continued hot and humid for another 48 hours at least, and then got out. A woman wearing a bathing suit, a sport, and a giant yellow sun hat emerged from the shop with a bag of peat moss cradled in her arms. She gave me a little smile. I returned it with 18% interest. She was from New York, and that meant she wasn't a Martian. The shop was even hotter and damper than the white morning outside. Leela Prox, the co-owner, was on the phone. There was a little fan beside the cash register, and she was standing directly in front of it, flapping the front of her sleeveless blouse. She saw me and twiddled her fingers in a wave. I twiddled mine back, feeling like someone else. Work or no work, I was still zoning, still feeling it. I walked around the shop, picking up a few things, almost at random, watching Leela out of the corner of my eye, and waiting for her to get off the phone so I could talk to her. And all the time, my own private hyperdrive was humming softly away. At last she hung up and I came to the counter. Michael Noonan, what a sight for sore eyes you are, she said, and began ringing up my purchases. I was awfully sorry to hear about Joanna. Gotta get that right up front. Joe was a pet. Thanks, Leela. Welcome. Don't need to say any more about it. But with a thing like that, it's best to put it right up front. I've always believed it. Always will believe it. Right up front. Going to do a little gardening, are you? Going to do a little gardening, are you? Are you? If it ever cools off. Aye, isn't it wicked? She flapped the top of her blouse again to show me how wicked it was, then pointed to one of my purchases. Want this one in a special bag? Always safe, never sorry, that's my motto. I nodded, then looked at the little blackboard tilted against the counter. Fresh blueberries, the chalk message read. The crop is in. I'll have a pint of blueberries too, I said, as long as they're not Fridays. I can do better than Friday. She nodded vigorously, as if to say she knew damn well I could. They were on the bush yesterday. That fresh enough for you? Good as gold, I said. Blueberries? The name of Kenny's dog, isn't it? Ain't he a funny one? God, I love that big dog. If he's behaved. She turned, got a pint of blueberries from her little fridge, and put them in another bag for me. Where's Helen? I asked. Day off? Not her, Leela said. If she's in town, she can't get you can't get her out of this place, lest you beat her with a stick. She and Kenny and the kids went down Massachusetts? What is Massachusetts? Seaside cottage 2 weeks every summer. They all went. Old Blueberry, he'll chase seagulls up until he drops. She laughed. It was a loud and hearty one. It made me think of Sarah Tidwell. Or maybe it was the way Leela looked at me as she did it. There was no laughter in her eyes. They were small and considering, coldly curious. Would you, for Christ's sake, quit it? I told myself. They can't all be in on it together, Mike. Couldn't they, though? There is such a thing as town consciousness. Anyone who doubts it has never been to a New England town meeting. Where there's a consciousness, is there not likely to be a subconscious? And if Kyra and I are doing the old mind meld together thing, could not other people in TR90 also be doing it? Perhaps without even knowing it? We all shared the same air and land. We shared the lake and the aquifer which lay below everything. Buried water tasting of rock and minerals. We shared the street as well, that place where good pups and vile dogs could walk side by side. As I started out with my purchases and the cloth carry handle bag, Leela said, What a shame about Royce Merrill, did you hear? No, I said. Fell down his cellar stairs yesterday evening. What a man his age was doing going down such a steep flight of stairs is beyond me, but I suppose once you get to his age, you have your own reasons for doing things. Is he dead? I started to ask, then rephrased. It wasn't the way It wasn't the way the question was expressed on the TR. Did he pass? Not yet. Lawton Rescue took him to Castle County General. He's in a coma. A comer, she said it. They don't think he'll ever wake up, poor fella. There's a piece of history that'll die with him. I suppose that's true. Good riddance, I thought. Does he have children? No. There have been Merrills on the TR for 200 years. One died at Cemetery Ridge, and all the old families are dying out now. You have a nice day, Mike, she smiled. Her eyes remained flat and considering. I got into my Chevy, put the bag with my purchases in it on the passenger seat, then simply sat for a moment, letting the air conditioner pour cool air on my face and neck. Kenny Oster was in Massachusetts. That was good. One step in the right direction. But there was still my caretaker. Bill's not here, Yvette said. She stood in the door, blocking it as well as she could. You could only do so much in that regard when you're 5'3" and weigh roughly 100 pounds. Studying me with the gimlet gaze of a nightclub bouncer denying re-entry to a drunk who's been tossed out on his ear once already. I was on the porch of the neat as you ever of Peabody Hill and looks all the way across New Hampshire and into Vermont's backyard. Bill's equipment sheds were lined up to the left of the house, all of them painted the same shade of gray, each with its own sign, Dean Caretaking, number 1, number 2, and number 3. Parked in front of number 2 was Bill's Dodge Ram. I looked at it, then back at Yvette. Her lips tightened a little more. Another notch, and I figured they'd be gone entirely. He went to North Conway with Butch Wiggins, she said. They went in Butch's truck to get. No need lying for me, dear heart, Bill said from behind her. It was still over an hour shy of noon, and on the Lord's day to boot. But I had never heard a man who sounded more tired. He clumped down the hall, and as he came out of its shadows and into the light, the sun was finally burning through the murk. I saw that Bill now looked his age, every year of it, and maybe 10 more to grow on. He was wearing his usual khaki shirt and pants. Bill Dean would be a Dickies man until the day he died, and his shoulders looked slumped, almost sprained, as if he'd spent a week lugging buckets that were too heavy for him. The falling away of his face had finally begun, and an indefinable something that makes the eyes look too big, the jaw too prominent, the mouth a bit loose. He looked old. There were no children to carry on the family line of work, either. All of the old families were dying out. Linda Perlow had said, but maybe that was a good thing. Bill, she began. Then he raised one of his big hands to stop her. The calloused fingertips shook a little. Go in the kitchen, Adite, he told her. I need to talk with my compadre here. It won't take long. Yvette looked at him, and when she looked back at me, she had indeed reached zero lip surface. Wow. There was just a black line where they had been, like a mark dashed off with a pencil. I saw with woeful clarity that she hated me. Don't you tire him out, she said to me. He hasn't been sleeping. It's the heat. She walked back down the hall, all stiff back and high shoulders, disappearing into shadows that were probably cool. It always seems to be cool in the houses of old people, have you noticed? Bill came out onto the porch and put his big hands into the pockets of his pants without offering to shake with me. I ain't got nothing to say to you, you and me quits. Why, Bill? Why are we quits? He looked west, where the hills stepped into the burning summer haze, disappearing in it before they could become mountains, and said nothing. I'm trying to help that young woman. He gave me a look from corners of his eyes that I could read well enough. Aye, help yourself right into her pants. I see men come up from New York and New Jersey with their young girls. Summer weekends, ski weekends, it doesn't matter. Men who go with girls that age always look the same. Got their tongues right out even when their mouths are shut. Now you look the same. I felt both angry and embarrassed, but I resisted the urge to chase him in that direction. That was what he wanted. What happened here? I asked him. What did your fathers and grandfathers and great-grandfathers do to Sarah Tidwell and her family? You didn't just move them on, did you? Didn't have to, Bill said. Looked past me at the hills. His eyes were moist almost to the point of tears, but his jaw was set and hard. They moved on themselves. Never was a nigger who didn't have any itchy foot, my dad used to say. Who set the trap that killed Sonny Tidwell's boy? Was it your father, Bill? Was it Fred? His eyes moved. His jaw never did. I don't know what you're talking about. I hear him crying in my house. Do you know what it's like to hear a dead child crying in your house? Some bastard trapped him like a weasel, and I hear him crying in my fucking house. You're going to need a new caretaker, Bill said. I can't do for you no more. Don't want to. What I want is for you to get off my porch. What's happening? Help me, for Christ's sake. I'll help you with the toe of my shoe if you don't get going on your own. I looked at him a moment longer. taken in the wet eyes and the set jaw, his divided nature written on his face. I lost my wife, you old bastard, he said, a woman you claimed to love. Now his jaw moved at last. He looked at me with surprise and injury. That didn't happen here, he said. That didn't have anything to do with here. She might have been off the TR because, well, she might have had her reasons to be off the TR, but she just had a stroke. Would have happened anywhere. Anywhere. I don't believe that. I don't think you do either. Something followed her to Derry. Maybe because she was pregnant. Bill's eyes widened. I gave him a chance to say something, but he didn't take it. Or maybe just because she knew too much. She had a stroke. Bill's voice wasn't quite even. I read the obituary myself. She had a damn stroke. What did she find out? Talk to me, Bill, please. There was a long pause. Until it was over, I allowed myself the luxury of thinking I might actually get through to him. I only got one more thing to say to you, Mike. Stand back. For the sake of your immortal soul, stand back and let things run their course. They will, whether you do or don't. This river has almost come to the sea. It won't be dammed by the likes of you. Stand back for the love of Christ. Do you care of your immortal soul, Mr. Noonan? God's butterfly caught in a cocoon of flesh that will soon stink like mine. Bill turned and walked to his door, and the heels of his work boots clodding on the painted boards. Stay away from Mattie and Kai, I said. And if you so much as go near the trailer. He turned back, and the hazy sunshine glinted in the tracks below his eyes. He took the bandana from his back pocket and wiped his cheeks. I ain't stirring from this house. I wish to God I'd never come back from my vacation in the first place. But I did. Mostly on your account, Mike. Those two down on Wasp Hill have nothing to fear from me. No, not from me. He went inside and closed the door. I stood there looking at it, feeling unreal. Surely I could not have had such a deadly conversation with Bill Dean, could I? Bill who had reproached me for not letting folks down here share, or perhaps ease, my grief for Joe. Bill who had welcomed me back so warmly. Then I heard a clack sound. He might not have locked his door while he was at home in his entire life, but he had locked it now. That clack was very clear in the breathless July air. It told me everything I needed to know about my long friendship with Bill Dean. I turned and walked back to my car, my head down. Nor did I turn when I heard a window run up behind me. Don't you ever come back here, you town bastard, Yvonne Dean cried across the sweltering dooryard. You've broken his heart. Don't you ever come back. Don't you ever. Please, Mrs. M said, don't ask me any more questions, Mike. I can't afford to get in Bill Dean's bad books any more than my ma can afford to get into normal Osters or Fred Dean's. I shifted the phone to my other ear. All I want to know is, in this part of the world, caretakers pretty well run the whole show. If they say to a summer fella that he should hire his carpenter or that electrician, why that's who the summer fella hires. Or if the caretaker says this one should be fired because he ain't proven reliable, he is fired. Or she. Because what goes once for plumbers and landscapers and electricians has always gone twice for housekeepers. If you want me to be recommended and stay recommended, you have to keep on the sunny side of people like Fred and Bill Dean, or Normal and Kenny Oster. Don't you see? She was almost pleading. When Bill found out I told you about what Normal Oster did to Carrie. Oh, he was so mad at me. Penny Oster's brother? The one Normal drowned under the pump? His name was Carrie? Aye, I've known a lot of folks name their kids alike. Kind of think it's think it's cute. Why, I went to school with a brother and sister named Roland and Rolanda Thorold. I think Roland's in Manchester now, and Rolanda's married to a boy from... Brenda, just answer one question. I'll never tell, please. I waited, my breath held, for the click that would come when she put her telephone back on its cradle. Instead, she spoke 3 words in a soft, almost regretful voice. What is it? Who's Carla Dean? I waited through another long pause, my hand playing with the ribbon that had come off Kai's turn-of-the-century straw hat. You doesn't tell anyone I told you anything, she said at last. I won't. Carla was Bill's twin sister. She died 65 years ago, during the time of the fires. The fires Bill claimed had been set by Kai's grandfather. His going away present to the TR. I don't know just how it happened. Bill never talks about it. If you tell him I told you, I'll never make another bed in the TR. He'll see to it. Then in a hopeless voice, she said, he may know anyway. Based on my experiences and surmises, I guessed she might be right about that, but even if she was, she'd have to check from me every month for the rest of her working life. I had no intention of telling her that over the telephone, though. It would scold her Yankee soul. Instead, I thanked her, assured her again of my discretion, and hung up. I sat at the table for a moment, staring blankly at Bunter, then said, Who's here? No answer. Come on, I said. Don't be shy. Let's go 1992 down. Barring that, let's talk. Still no answer. Not so much as a shiver of the bell around the stuffed moose's neck. I spied the scribbles of notes I'd made while talking to Joe's brother and drew them toward me. I had put Kai, Kyra, Keto, and Carla in a box. Now I scribbled down the bottom line of that box and added the name Carrie to the list. I've known a lot of folks name their kids alike, Mrs. Emmett said. They think it's cute. I didn't think it was cute. I thought it was creepy. It occurred to me that at the last 2 of these sound-alikes had drowned. Carrie Oster under a pump, Kaya Noonan in her mother's dying body, while she wasn't much bigger than a sunflower seed. And I had seen the ghost of a 3rd drowned child in the lake, Keto. Was that one Keto, or was Keto the one who had died of blood poisoning? They name their kids alike. They think it's cute. How many sound-alike kids had there been to start with? How many were left? I thought the answer to the first question didn't matter, and then I knew the answer to the second one already. This river has almost come to the sea, Bill had said. Carla, Carrie, Kaido, Kaya, all gone. Only Kyra DeVore was left. I got up so fast and hard that I knocked over my chair. The clatter and the silence made me cry out. I was leaving, and right now. No more telephone calls, no more playing Andy Drake, private detective, no more depositions or half-assed wooings of the fair lady. I should have followed my instincts and gotten the fuck out of Dodge that first night. Well, I'd go now. Just gotta get in the Chevy and haul ass for dare. Bunter's bell jangled furiously. I turned and saw it bouncing around around his neck, as if baiting to and fro by a hand I couldn't see. Make sure that was warm. The sliding door giving to the deck began to fly open and clap shut like something hooked to a pulley. The book of tough stuff crossword puzzles on the end table and the DSS program guide blew open, their pages rifling. There was a series of rattling thuds across the floor, as if something enormous was crawling. A draft, but warm, like the rush of air produced by a subway train on the summer night, buffeted past me. In it I heard a strange voice, which seemed to be baby bye 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 bye, as if wishing me a good trip home. Then, as it dawned on me that the voice was actually saying kai 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 kai, something struck me and knocked me violently forward. It felt like a large soft fist. I buckled over the table, clawed at it to stay up, overturning the lazy Susan with salt and pepper shakers on it, the napkin holder, the last vase Mrs. M had filled with daisies. The vase rolled off the table and shattered. The kitchen TV blared on, some political talk about how inflation was on the march again. The CD player started up, drowning out the politician. It was the Rolling Stones doing a cover of Sarah Tidwell's I Regret You Baby. Upstairs, one smoke alarm went off, then another, then a third. They were joined a moment later by the warble whoop of the Chevy's car alarm. The whole world was cacophony. Something hot and pillowy seized my wrist. My head shot forward like a piston and slammed down on the steno pad. I watched as it pawed clumsily to a blank page, then seized the pencil which lay nearby. Oh, my hand shot like a piston and slammed down on the steno pad. I watched as it clawed clumsily to the blank page, then seized the pencil which lay nearby. I gripped it like a dagger, and then something wrote with it, not guiding my hand, but raping it. The hand moved slowly at first, almost blindly, then picked up speed until it was flying, almost tearing through the sheet. Help her, don't 80, help her, don't 80, help her, don't, baby. Please don't 80, help her, help her, help her. I had almost reached the bottom of the page when the cold descended again, that outer cold that was like sleet in January, chilling my skin and crackling the snot of my nose and sending two shuddery puffs of white air from my mouth. My hand clutched and the pencil snapped in two. Behind me, Bunter's bell rang out, one final furious convulsion before falling silent. Also, from behind me came a peculiar double pop, like a sound of champagne cork being drawn. Phoebe, what are you doing? Really? Give me a second. Why are you eating my lint brush? How did you get my lint brush? Did you take it off my... You took it off my desk, didn't you? Mm-hmm. That you did. Well, that's the one I'll take upstairs and try to use for my pillow, since the cat's got her fur everywhere. Now stop it. You have bones. You don't need to eat my stuff. Go on. Go chew your bone. Well, then I'll pet you, but that doesn't mean that you need to eat my stuff. White air puffed from my mouth. My hand clenched and the pencil snapped in two. Behind me, Bunter's bell rang out, one final furious convulsion before falling silent. Also from behind me came a peculiar double pop, like the sound of champagne corks being drawn. Then it was over. Whatever had been, or however many they had been, it was finished. I was alone again. I turned off the CD player just as Mick and Keith moved on to the white boy version of Howling Wolf, then ran upstairs and pushed the reset buttons on the smoke detectors. I leaned out the window of the big guest bedroom while I was up there, aimed the fob of my keyring down at the Chevrolet, and pushed the button on it. The alarm quit. With the worst of the noises gone, I could hear the TV cackling away in the kitchen. I went down, killed it, then froze with my hand still on the off button, looking at Joe's annoying, waggy cat clock. Its tail had finally stopped switching, and its big plastic eyes lay on the floor. They had popped right out of its head. I went down to the village cafe for supper, snagging the last Sunday telegram from the rack. Computer mogul Devore dies in western Maine town where he grew up, the headline read. Before sitting down at the counter, the accompanying photo was a studio shot of Devore that looked about 30 years old. He was smiling. Most people do that quite naturally. On Devore's face, it looked like a learned skill. I ordered the beans that were left over from Buddy Jellison's Saturday night bean hole supper. My father wasn't much for aphorisms. In my family, dispensing nuggets of wisdom was Mom's job. But as Daddy warmed up the Saturday night yellow eyes in the oven on Sunday afternoon, he would invariably say that bean and beef stew were better the second day. I guess it stuck. The only other piece of fatherly wisdom I could remember receiving was that you should always wash your hands after you took a shit in a bus station. While I was reading the story on Devore, Audrey came over and told me that Royce Merrill had passed away without recovering consciousness. The funeral would be Tuesday afternoon at Grace Baptist, she said. Most of the town would be there. Many folks just to see Isla Meserve awarded, the Boston Post came. Did I think I'd get over? No, I said, probably not. I thought it prudent not to add that I'd likely be attending a victory party at Mattie Devore's while Royce's funeral was going on down the road. The usual late Sunday afternoon flow of customers came and went while I ate. People ordering burgers, people ordering beans, people ordering chicken salad sandwiches, people buying six-packs. Some were from the TR, some from away. I didn't notice many of them, and no one spoke to me. I had no idea who left the napkin on my newspaper, but when I put down the A section and turned to find the sports, there it was. I picked it up, meaning only to put it aside, and saw what was written on the back in big dark letters, "Get off the TR." I never found out who left it there. I guess it could have been any one of them. Wow, people really don't like him. I guess we'll have to hope that in the next 23, 24, 25, 26, 27, 20, and hopefully in the next 6 chapters, we will know why they want him off the TR. So, oh, did you get the key? It's hanging up. You got it? Wait, no, it's not. It's right here. Oh my God. I thought I hung it up. There you go. Make sure you just, I unlocked it, but you never know. Anyway, I'm going to let you guys go. I am sore and I am ready for bed. It is 11:30 and I am going to head up and lay down and try to relax my stress, which is basically my arthritis. Hopefully y'all had a good day. I hope y'all have a good night. Tomorrow morning, we will be on to 23. I mean, if I read 2 chapters each time, we'd be, done in a few days. But if we do 23, 24, 25, 26, 27, 28, wait, 23, 24, 25, 26, 27, 28, we'd be done day after tomorrow. But if I read one chapter, we're going to be done. We're still going to be done day after tomorrow. Like Sunday or Monday, Tuesday, Monday, Tuesday. So that's Tuesday. Or we do Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday. So we'll have to wait and see. This is actually probably Daddy's, but anyway, it's fine. It's fine. It's fine. You eat it away. I will see you guys later, but we are at least going to do 23 tomorrow. So I will see you guys later. Y'all have a good night. I love you. Thank you for sticking with me. And hopefully we'll know something soon. All right? Bye.